Hey everybody, Backpack Hack here coming at you with another trail tip, and today I'd like to talk to you about a little bit about how to keep warm at night. There's two scenarios. First is a lot of people that are just starting out camping and hiking and backpacking concern themselves about how do you keep warm at night. Even during a great day like today, it's 74 degrees right now, but I don't have a problem myself sleeping down when it's 30 degrees because I have the gear for it. The other thing is people tend to overestimate what their gear is capable of. They think they go and get a minus 20 degree sleeping bag and they can do whatever they want down to like 10 or 15 degrees below zero and they'll be perfectly comfortable. Keeping warm at night is very, very important. I can't tell you how uncomfortable and how unpleasant it is to be shivering all night because you're cold. Now, sometimes you might be in a situation where you have no choice. Maybe you're lost and you haven't found your way back to your car or the trailhead or civilization, and you have to spend an extra night out in the woods. Maybe that storm that was supposed to miss you, took a left turn at Albuquerque and came right in, and instead of being 60 degrees tonight, is now 40 degrees. And so you don't have a choice. You got to get through the night and try to stay warm. Obviously, the right gear is going to be your best bet. Having the proper gear for the temperature and conditions you're going to be in is going to be your best bet. But sometimes we don't have that choice. We're out there and we have to make do with what we have. So that's what this video is going to be about, is making the best of what you have. Number one, go to bed warm. Yeah, it's nice to sit out and watch the stars and the moon and count meteorites and things like that and listen to the whippoorwills and the coyotes and the owls and everything. But if you're starting to get cold being up and around and active, you're going to be cold when you go to bed. So obviously, you want to get to bed before you start getting cold. But if you are cold before you go to bed, here's a few things you can do to heat up. Eat or drink something hot. Cup of coffee or a little bit of soup or hot chocolate, something like that. Do some calisthenics, jumping jacks or push-ups or run in place. Or take a short hike up and down the trail before it gets dark. That can help you warm up. Obviously, you don't want to do that to the point where you start to sweat, because water is very, very bad for you when you're trying to keep warm. Add layers. Obviously, a good base layer is going to be a very important part of your gear. Put that on. If you have a coat, wear that to bed. Gloves. Even if you have to wear a pair of gloves to bed. You're not doing this for a fashion show. You're doing this to try to get through the night comfortably. So even if they're not thermal gloves, wearing any type of gloves is going to be better. I always carry a cap. This is just a very basic stocking cap. It's always part of my gear. I hardly ever wear it, but I do have it when I have it when I need it. So adding layers, even a jacket, like I say, whenever you can do to keep warm. Obviously, you want to stay dry. As I said, moisture is a very bad thing for you to have next to your body, because what happens when we sweat, that's the purpose of sweat, is to draw the heat away from your body. If you're wet, that moisture is going to want to evaporate and take your body's heat with it. So stay dry. Do whatever you can to stay dry. Make sure that your bedding is dry, that your tent is dry, that your clothing is dry, all that. If you're sleeping in a tent on the ground, add as many leaves or pine needles or whatever you can underneath your tent to give you an insulating layer between your tent and the ground, because the ground will suck up just as much heat as the air will. A lot of mummy bags have a hood built into them, and a lot of people think that's just there to hold their pillow in place. Obviously, if you could bring that hood up around your head, that's going to save a lot of your body heat and hold it in. Site location is very, very important. You don't want to be next to a large body of water, especially if that water is fed by glaciers or snow melt. They create their own microclimate, and that air just gets cold around them. And cold air simply means you're going to be less comfortable. So get away from those large bodies of water. They may be picturesque, and that babbling brook may help lull you to sleep, but they can also make you cold. Also, you don't want to be out in the wind. You want to have some sort of natural windbreak ahead of you, between you and the wind, whether it's a stand of trees or an outcropping of rocks, whatever you can do to find a good windbreak, natural or otherwise. If your tent has vents that can open and close, obviously you want to close as many as you reasonably can. You don't want to close them off completely. You don't want to isolate yourself inside. That may sound reasonable, but your body is going to perspire. Your breath is going to have water in it, moisture in it, and that water can condense. And again, we're back to having water in your tent, which is a bad idea. A lot of people don't know sharing body heat. Now, if you're camping with somebody, there's nothing wrong with sharing your body heat. Ideally, you should have sleeping bags that can zip together so you can share the body heat. I don't think anybody is ever going to think any less of you. Obviously, if you're trying to do this to get through the night, especially if it's a life or death situation, whether you're trying to keep yourselves from freezing or maybe a member of your team or your partner is injured and you have to share your body heat with them. I don't think anybody's going to think anything less of you. I'm not a fan of the sleeping bags that are built for two people because those are special purpose. Those are single use. I'm a more fan of a single sleeping bag and get two of them that can be zipped together. Fill up a hot water bottle, an Nalgene bottle, whether it's solid or soft-sided. Put some warm water in there. Not hot, and especially not boiling hot water, just some comfortably warm water. Put that in your sleeping bag. You let it warm your sleeping bag up a little bit, and then you can put it next to your body to help keep you warm. I know a lot of people will disagree with this one, but drink plenty of water about an hour before you retire for the night. A lot of people say, well, I'm not going to drink because I got to get up in the middle of the night and go take a trip out to the tree. But being properly hydrated will help you keep you warmer at night. If you drink a lot of water about an hour before you plan on retiring and then take a bio break just before you retire, you will be a whole lot better off. Eat later than normal. I know a lot of people get hungry when they come off the trail and the first thing they want to do is cook up a hot meal. But if you take in all those calories and use them up before you go to bed, then your body has nothing to work with all night. So it's better to eat later than you normally do, closer to your bedtime than what you're used to. Because the body has a great propensity for being able to keep itself warm, but it's got to have those calories to do it. So if you eat later than normal and go to eat as close as you can to going to bed, forget the diet, forget your figure. We're not out here for a fashion show. That way you give your body the calories to keep warm. If you are in a location where animals, especially bears, are not a problem, keep some high-fat snacks in your tent. Some trail bars or some snacks like Snickers bars or something, even just a small size. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you're cold, you'd be surprised what having that little snack in the middle of the night can do. And the last two items I have saved for the last, these are very, very important. One is clean, dry socks. You should always have at least a pair of spare socks with you, no matter what you do out in the wild, where you go, what you're doing, and what your intents are. Always have a spare pair of socks and do everything you can to make sure they are clean and dry as soon as you can. If you get up in the morning, rinse them out, hang them out to dry, so when you hit the trail, they're dry. That way, if you get stuck somewhere and you need to spend the night, you've got clean, dry socks. Dry, clean socks are very, very important. And finally, know your gear and know the limits of your gear and know your limits. Different people are going to be uncomfortable at different temperatures as you go down the scale. Some people, they're shivering when it's 60 degrees. Myself, I don't have a problem camping in 40-degree weather. I love getting up in the morning and it's in the 30s. Gets my, I feel alive. It makes me feel good because I'm prepared for it. I've got the gear for it and I'm used to it. But some people just can't see that. So know your limits and know the limits of your gear. If you don't know what your limits and your gear's limits are, start experimenting. Don't go out when it's 10 degrees out and expect to stay comfortable. Start out when the temperature is going to be in the 60s. Try your gear out. Was it comfortable? Yes or no? If it was, then go out when it's going to be 50, and then 40, and then 30. Keep going down that temperature scale with your gear until you reach the limit. One way you can do this, and I'll have a lot of people look at me strange when I suggest this, but you can try this without having to come out here into the outdoors and actually try it out. You can do this at home, in your home. All you need to do is shut your furnace off, open up all your windows, and let your house cool off at night. And you can get thermometers that will register the low temperature that it experiences. They're not all that expensive. So if you want to try out, let's say, a sleeping bag and what your base layer will be, try it out, put the thermometer on your nightstand, and go through the night. If you get up the next morning and you say, wow, that was a piece of cake, and it was only 52 degrees last night. Now you can wait until the weather gets colder and repeat that experiment. All you got to do is take all the bedding off your bed and actually use your own mattress as a campsite, so to speak, to practice on your gear. If 52 degrees was comfortable, maybe you can wait until you can get the house down to 45 degrees. If you were comfortable then and you got through the night very, very easy, keep going down the scale. Obviously, you don't want to freeze your house and have pipes burst, but this will give you a good idea. And the nice thing about doing this at home is if you do wake up and you're uncomfortable and you want to just cease the experiment, all you got to do is shut your windows, turn your furnace back on, wait a few minutes, and you're nice and comfortable, and you can put the bedding back on your bed and continue life as normal. But at least you've got an idea of how low your limits are between you and your tent. So this is Backpack Het coming at you with these trail tips on how to keep warm at night. Hopefully they will help you either on your everyday outdoor adventures or in an emergency situation. So I encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, and share on my videos, and I'll be safe out there, and I'll see you out there on the trail.